Okay, there we go, sure.
Appreciate it. Wow. All right, good evening, everybody. My name's Arthur Shopper. James kind of rolled things out right there. Really appreciate it. I was at the California Republican Assembly meeting over in Torrance. I'm representing Torrance. I was born in Torrance. I'm actually pretty unique. Most people are from everywhere else, but I was really born here. And I plan to stay here no matter how crazy it gets. And so James came up to me, and I had, he gets a text message from me at least once a week, or an email once a week about another great thing that's happened in the Second Amendment movement, strengthening gun rights, etc. And so, he says, why don't you just come and talk about it? I really appreciate it. Just to sum up. Normally, I don't focus on gun rights, the Second Amendment. I am the field director for Mass Resistance. We are an international pro-family organization. We've been fighting the LGBT agenda for over 30 years. All the crap that they're pushing on the kids in schools, it's our job to get that stuff out. That's what we fight. We shut down the Drag Queen Story Hour programs. We've even, there was a lot of news about this resolution against Obergefell. That was the same-sex marriage decision that was imposed on us 10 years ago. Well, a bunch of legislatures were considering a resolution to overturn it. That was us. We got that ball rolling. Nobody wanted to touch it, but we said, we want to get back to basics. You need a mom and a dad to raise a kid. That'll solve a lot of our crime problems. If you're interested in learning more about us afterwards, we have a newsletter. It's free. You're welcome to sign up too. But in addition to fighting this anti-family, destructive LGBT nonsense, I have like a hobby interest in gun rights. And I learned I had to say gun rights. I used to say, I support Second Amendment rights. A lot of people corrected me. It's not the Second Amendment doesn't give us the right. These are God-given rights. Amen. It's the Second Amendment that puts a limit on the state. And a lot of people corrected me on that. So I've always said gun rights are a natural right to keep and bear arms. So I've always been really careful about that. So I not only focus on that, but an issue that's always been of particular interest to me is the constitutional carry movement. That thing is just fascinating to me. I've been following that for years. Every year when I saw a Republican governor finally get into a state that had been historically blue or purple, and they had a Republican legislature, I said, well, this will be the year that they finally allow you to carry without needing a stupid permit or a permission slip from the government. I do a lot of activism in Montana. That's one of the few legislatures you can be from anywhere in the country and you can testify on legislation. And even I think I was able to testify on a gun bill. They finally got constitutional carry done there in 2021. James knows I've been sending him stuff for the last 3 months about North Carolina. This will be the 30th state that will have constitutional carry. And I think this is part of the larger good news mantra we need to embrace. We've seen one mass shooting after another. And it ties in with my main fight, these crazy transgenders shooting people up. There's a correlation here. Don't let anybody tell you that's discriminatory. That's a fact. If somebody is so mentally ill that a guy thinks he should wear a dress and stuck himself up with chemicals, and that you better believe it, that guy's got a problem. And these people are a threat. I absolutely do believe that. I don't care how many people watch this. That's absolutely the case. The problem isn't the gun, it's the crazy person. Clearly. And in spite of all this negative, we see the gun rights movement just expanding. That is really commendable. As James mentioned, I mean, every town has given up. I just read yesterday, David Hogg's, March for Our Lives, that's collapsing. That's like they have no interest. So I mean, in spite of every negative possible, with the 8 years of Obama and the 4 years of Joe Biden, the whole gun control movement is really collapsing. And as far as North Carolina is concerned, they've got a supermajority in the state Senate. They're just one seat away from a supermajority in the House. But the Republicans have a couple Democrats who've helped them out, whether it's on crime issues, whether it's on parental rights issues, or keeping men out of women's sports. Democrats have crossed over and they've helped override vetoes. So fingers crossed, North Carolina will be state number 30. So, I mean, that's always been like a wide interest for me, was constitutional carry. So that was one thing. And the Supreme Court. I hope, Steve talked about a couple of things, but he gave me a little room to talk about some of the other things. And I was talking to James about this. Part of the reason he invited me is he said, I didn't know that. And that's always a good thing. I mean, we're now in that era. I think you've seen that for the last few months. Every month there's more good news. more good news coming out of the Supreme Court, coming out of the appellate courts, coming out of President Trump and his leadership. This has been really invigorating, really encouraging, especially, I mean, going back to the constitutional carry issue, I know that started, I mean, most of you already know it, but I'm just making my case, you know. Vermont, they had it together from the very beginning. That's why it's Vermont carry. We get that. And then Alaska said, we want to have constitutional carry in 2003. And then there was silence for about 7 years. And then finally Arizona stepped in. And I think what really kicked everything in was Obama, because it was clear he had a gun control, gun grab agenda. I mean, he was aggressive about it. I think that's what really took everything off. So the irony is Democrats get elected, more people get guns. Either way, but not that we want them to be in power, but the reaction is good. People, the states have stepped up, reasserted their 10th Amendment authority. The other thing too, you know, just building on that, has been the Heller decision you all know about. The Bruin decision, that's really particular for me because, I mean, the Supreme Court, all the legalese, you know, Ketanji Brown Jackson, she calls it legalese. She shouldn't even be there. She's so incompetent. But, you know, for me, it's like Supreme Court arguments, legislative decisions, stuff like that, never interested me, except when it came to this Bruin case. This is the first time, that case was the first time that I sat and listened to all the oral arguments before the court. I'd never done that before. Even with the Dobbs decision, even with Obergefell, I wasn't interested, but the Bruin decision, this was interesting to me. That's how compelling the gun rights issue is for me, especially the right to carry, expanding that right. And I even read the decision issued by Alito. I mean, I could understand it too. He's a very good justice, not just because he's smart, not just because but he's articulate, and he's really effective. Anybody can understand it. You know, he's not trying to talk over your head. So that was really helpful. So I talked a little bit about, and just with constitutional carry again, I mean, we've seen some states have been like really bad on this. South Carolina, where you got Lindsey Graham, and you've got Tim Scott, who's a little bit better. But I mean, that legislature was notorious. They just killed constitutional carry every single year. And finally, last year, they got it across the finish line. But look, we're looking at 2024. It took this long. I mean, Arizona got it done in 2010. But it really has shown how this aggressive gun rights movement has been so effective that even these rhino states are getting it together. The NRA was even talking about, right now Pennsylvania is kind of on the line. The Democrats took over the House. They have a 1-seat majority though. It's like extremely weird. 1-seat majority, and a whole bunch of gun control measures were killed this week. And again, technically a majority of Democrats are in that chamber. And the Senate is still Republican, so whatever they pass is going to be killed in the state Senate. Unfortunately, there's Josh Shapiro, who is Mr. Gun Control. Hopefully they can get rid of him next year. So I've been following that. It was I remember I was following the whole constitutional carry push. In 2022, I was so hopeful. Those Rust Belt states, you know, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, they had Republican legislatures, they had the Democrat governor. I was hoping they could get that Republican governor, and that didn't happen. A bit of a setback. Hopefully we can correct that for 2026. And they're killing the gun control stuff, so I'm really happy about that. So that's been an issue. North Carolina, I've given James the key people you can contact. I think it can happen, but it's just how much pressure can be put on it. The leadership in North Carolina, they want this bill. So that's a good sign. Normally leadership, they love killing these bills because they want money for corporations, or they want to just, you know, fatten their own coffers, or just make sure they get reelected. Constitutional carry is a really touchy subject for some people. But the leadership wants this bill. So that's a good sign. Especially if they can stick it to the very Democrat governor that they were saddled with. James asked me to talk about other good news. And there's other movements I've seen in the gun rights movement across the country that you should know about. I've been in touch with legislators across the country. In Idaho, you'd think Idaho is like the reddest of red states. They have the best gun laws, right? Wrong. They still have issues even there. A state senator in northern Idaho wanted to take his gun to a fairgrounds event. And they said, no, you can't. In fact, he then initiated a lawsuit. And you'd think the Supreme Court in Idaho, that's all Republican appointees, correct? And they killed him and said, hey, we have a right to keep you. If it's a private event, they can tell you you can't carry. So what is this? So he passed the bill, he got it done, so that you cannot prevent somebody from going to a fairground event. They can carry. But see, there's little by little, there's still, so you have constitutional carry, that's nice, but then the next game they try to play is where you can carry, right? This is still a problem. Tennessee is notorious. People from Tennessee keep correcting me, no, we really don't have constitutional carry. I'm like, look, if you can carry without a permit, that's a start. If you gotta expand where, that's a legitimate fight. I just looked this up a few days ago. You would think, campuses, college campuses are becoming pretty dicey areas. They're getting pretty dangerous. The last thing you should do is prevent somebody from protecting themselves there. Yet there's only 11 states where you can carry, and the university cannot prevent you. Only 11. But that is a big improvement over the last couple of years. West Virginia just joined the club. Idaho recently joined that club too. So there's always room for improvement. That same legislator I mentioned in Idaho, he introduced a bill, I don't know if it passed yet or not, but it's to, when you defend yourself, right, there's always going to be a legal process. Was it right for you to use your gun or not? And a lot of unscrupulous district attorneys are using that as an opportunity to take your firearm away, even though you have a God-given right to protect yourself, right? So they're now working on legislation to make the burden on the state whether they should go after you or not. Because that's still a problem in a lot of places. I remember a couple years ago when there was the church shooting in Texas. James was talking about this. The lieutenant governor, or no, it was the attorney general, well, yeah, I guess it was Dan Patrick, or one of the two, there was an ongoing investigation after the guy with the gun had killed the assailant in the church. They were still investigating the guy, even though it was clearly legitimate. So this is a problem that still needs to be resolved, but that's something that's being worked on. There's always room for improvement, and there's more activists, legislators who are aware of this. So that's something that's really important to notice. I appreciate you bringing up Alberta and bringing up Canada. I have a friend in Canada, he's in Lacombe, his name is Bill Watcott. And he was able, and Canada, of course, is very gun control, very gun regulated, it's horrific out there. Yet Alberta, interestingly enough, he was able to get a permit. And that's like a miracle for Canada. And he was able to get that permit. That is, of course, one of the big issues when it comes to their secession effort. We want to be able to defend ourselves. We have a God-given right, do we not? So that's good news right there. It just reminded me, in the last year, I don't just look at gun right expansion in the United States, but I look at it around the world. You should know about this. It shows you there's a way.
I don't mean to break up, but is there someone double parking the handicap up there? License plate 792? There's double parking the handicap.
What kind of car is it?
They say
What kind of car?
it's
Do you know your license plate?
license plate
What's the model? What's the
792.
model?
It's a SUV parked in handicap. Is anyone parked in the handicap?
It's a non-handicap car parked in a handicap parking, is that the problem?
There's someone.
It's double park. It's a double parking issue.
I'm not trying to be rude.
No, okay.
Someone's
Okay, appreciate it. Just getting back to what I was sharing. I don't just look at how gun rights are advancing here in the United States. I'm really interested in what happens around the world. And unfortunately, the world's really behind on this. Everybody's been really brainwashed on this. In Europe, there's just this harsh gun control culture. I think it was either Serbia or Slovenia. They actually did a mass gun grab after one mass shooting a couple years ago. I mean, that's just horrific. That's what's happening. You'd think Eastern Europe would know better. I mean, they dealt with communism for 60 years. The good news, maybe some of you know about this already, but I think it's worth mentioning, the Czech Republic, they enacted shall issue. They actually have that now. So there is one European country that's moving in the right direction on this. I thought that was really interesting. And Israel, after October 7th, I mean, they had a pretty precise and strict restriction or registration policy. They've begun relaxing that in Israel. I mean, they have to. You need to have a gun to kill Hamas. I mean, terrorism is a way of life over there. They've actually started to relax their own gun laws. I thought that was really interesting because it was so gun control oriented there. And Argentina, they have a libertarian president, Javier Milei. He wiped out a bunch of gun control laws. A lot of people are not talking about that. So it's starting to advance a little bit. But you're seeing it around the world. People are looking at, oh, look at all these gun crimes that are happening in America. No, they're not trying to take guns away. You have some places they're expanding your right to carry. So that's, I think, really good news you should know about. So I wanted to add that. Okay, I talked about constitutional carry, I talked about the growing movements. On the federal front, thank you. Some of you already know about that. The big beautiful bill eliminated one of the gun taxes. That was a big move. I guess it's gonna take an omnibus, but they really need to get that reciprocity in. That reciprocity bill is so important. I mean, it's just common sense. We have a full faith and credit clause in our Constitution. I don't have to have a driver's license from New Mexico to drive in New Mexico. So why should I have to beg for a permit to carry from another state? But hey, the next best thing is they're gonna get this reciprocity thing through.
Arthur, time.
This we could. There we go. No problem there. So, talk about the big beautiful bill that was briefly mentioned. There is that national reciprocity bill that's come in. Thomas Massey, I love what he introduced earlier this year. He has a constitutional carry bill. He says, forget about all this permitting stuff, just let people carry across the country. Who cares? Of course, that's going to be harder to put forward because even now we still have leadership that's kind of averse to letting us exercise our rights. But it's a step in the right direction. It's a bigger step in the right direction. I really liked it. So, and like I said, I really, in spite of all the negatives we've seen, and media is really desperate to push another mass shooting. We've got to do something about this, like what happened in Minneapolis. This is horrific. Nobody's diminishing that. Or that the largest mass shooting in history now we had in Las Vegas in 2017. But in spite of all of this, it hasn't stopped the movement to expand our rights. And that's something we've really got to cherish and just keep doubling down. That's big. So let me to the next topic. I wanted to talk about President Trump and what he's been accomplishing. This is some of the stuff that's surprised and interested James when I spoke with him 2 weeks ago. So I have to do a full admission here. 2023, starting 2022, I really soured on Donald Trump. I was a little disappointed with a lot of the promises not getting done during his first term. For whatever reason, I'm not going to argue about it. Look, the wall didn't get built, the swamp didn't get drained. I get it. There was bad actors, deep state, okay, whatever. But the point is, I was not happy about it. And, 2022, I was like, I like DeSantis. I started paying attention a lot more to him. And one of the reasons why I was really particular about DeSantis is, Trump did a bump stock ban. That's a problem. I had a real problem with that. And then there was, after the Parkland shooting, he had the forum with the senators, including Dianne Feinstein, and she talked about red flag laws, and it sounded like Trump was interested in that. I had a problem with that. I said, I want the best and the brightest to be my next president. I lined up behind DeSantis. And he's in the state where Parkland happened, and he campaigned on constitutional carry. That's leadership. That's what I want to see from our elected officials, that they don't get pushed by the drama or the horror as an excuse to take our rights away. And Florida, again, because I've been following the constitutional carry movement for so long, Florida was actually falling behind when it came to gun rights. You can't open carry, at least until this year. And it was a judicial ruling that finally struck down the ban on open carry. So that's a win, but it took a judge to do it. DeSantis wanted open carry. He wanted constitutional carry. He campaigned on both. And he got Trump's endorsement during the first term, got elected. He finally got it across the finish line. Florida was state number 26. Majority of states had constitutional carry because of DeSantis. He got that done. That was a big deal for me. But clear out the records of the past. I did vote for Trump in 24. God forbid I didn't want Kamala Harris anywhere near the White House. And the big thing too was when Trump chose J.D. Vance. That was a brilliant move. And I was talking to Keith about it because Keith and I were going back and forth. Keith didn't vote for Trump in 2016. I'm not putting him on the spot. There were a lot of us, some people were in that category. And we were joking, it's like the roles had reversed. I didn't want to vote for Trump in 24. But J.D. Vance, he really clinched the deal for me. He's big on gun rights. He's big on enforcing the Second Amendment. Anything else? Is everything okay?
Someone is still double.
Oh, it's still there.
Old man over there in a Honda CRV. Anyone?
I said that. Number one.
Gray CRV. Anyone?
Nobody responded.
Is it blue?
Ray.
I'll check it.
Might be blue.
If you're double parked, please give it a chance.
Writes people a hard time. They say we're trigger happy. Look how we handle this. Come on. There you go. But anyway, so there we go. That's right. We know how to use them. We're not trigger crazy. We're trigger happy. There you go. That's no big deal. So, yes, I voted for Trump. J.D. Vance is fantastic. He sealed the deal. And boy, I have no problem admitting I stand corrected. President Trump, has he not been fantastic? He has really corrected the mistakes. He has, I mean, a lot of people love to say, I voted for this, I voted for this, I voted for this. Honestly, I have to admit, I can't say that. Because whether it's Vance, whether it's Hegseth, or Trump himself, they're doing stuff that I would have never imagined could have been done. I mean, it's just brilliant how creative they are. They're thinking outside the box, doing stuff that should have been done years ago. One of the key things, I wrote about this for an article, I write for Town Hall, by the way, and for American Thinker, as well as for American Greatness. If you're interested, I can show you where to find it. So I've been published a lot, and James gets a lot of it, so he knows. But Trump, he finally went after a big problem, which is Washington, D.C. You have one of the worst gun control regimes there in our capital city. The chief of police does whatever Muriel Bowser wants, well, until recently, because Trump was able to take over the police department. He has the authority to do that. He has already ordered that they would expedite the CCW process. It is insane. You have to wait for months just to apply for a CCW. You have to request a meeting so that you can just submit the application. That doesn't guarantee you'll get CCW. What is this? So Trump said, we're going to cut this crap out. Jeanine Pirro is the U.S. Attorney for D.C. Finally, we're not going to have any of this January 6th crap. And she has made it clear she's not going to convict or she's not going to charge anybody if they're carrying, if they have a permit from another state and they're carrying in D.C. You're not going to get charged with a felony. Good. That's a step towards the open carry that we should see across the country. This is what we need. It's like, no, we're not going to enforce this. This is unconstitutional. Brilliant. And Trump is pushing this. I love it. President Trump has been on board with the reciprocity bill. He wants the constitutional carry bill. Love all of this. The ATF is repealing all those stupid Biden-era rules. This is really good. I mean, he has just 180 degrees, a real improvement. I have no problem being wrong. I have no problem saying, hey, I'm glad I voted for him. I'm glad I was wrong. I'm glad he did the right thing. I guess that bullet to the ear changed a lot of things, didn't it? So, anyway, okay, I don't talk about that. We talked about the courts. I think these are some other good news trends that I've seen. Local, some small, but I think this is interesting too. Kenosha County, Wisconsin. We had a mass resistance chapter there in Kenosha County. Their county board of supervisors, they repealed all the gun bans on government buildings. How about that? There's a lot of states where you still can't carry in the state house, which makes no sense. They weren't for us, did they not? But they got rid of that in Kenosha County. By the way, Idaho, this is so crazy. I was participating in some of the government hearings. You can carry. You have to open carry, but you can carry in Idaho. You can come in with, they don't have metal detectors in Boise. You just walk right in. The only thing is that you can't have the bullets in. You gotta, if there's an issue, then you get the bullets and you have to, then you put the bullets in. But until then, you can come in, but it has to be unloaded. But then if there's a problem, then you unload it afterwards. But there you go. They don't have metal detectors in Idaho. Shouldn't that be everywhere? I'd like to see that. That's a move in the right direction. You probably already know about this, but just to affirm it, even in Oregon, there was that horrible, I think it was Initiative 113, that basically was registration, magazine limits, just like the Second Amendment doesn't exist in Oregon anymore. That was struck down, and that's been maintained, so that's been a big win. And something else came up. I was looking again at California, looking at these horrific restrictions that we face here. And the case is listed, and I really appreciate Steve allowing me to go into this. Baird versus Bonta. Now this is really exciting. Like I said, normally I don't care about courts. I'm not interested in oral arguments. I don't want to read the legalese. But this is another case. Even yesterday, just to prepare for this, I watched the entire oral argument. This was before the Ninth Circuit. Baird versus Bonta. Mark Baird, he's in Siskiyou County. I know the man. I've met the man. He is going after the ridiculous open carry regime in this state. You all know it. I'm just making my case. How ridiculous is this? If the county has fewer than 200 residents, then I can carry openly. But I got to get a permit from that county, and that's the only county where I can open carry. That is California. But what was really interesting and even entertaining, Mark Baird has a great attorney. She's fantastic. She is thorough on this. They're going for everything. They want to strike down the criminal statute, which makes it a misdemeanor if you carry, open carry without a permit. And they want to get rid of the whole regime that you have to get a permit in the first place. They're going big. It was a little difficult articulating it, but this lawyer, she did a great job. I watched the whole thing. Like I said, I usually don't watch oral arguments, but this was fascinating. And I actually encourage you to watch it too. It's actually kind of funny. The three judges who are hearing this case, this was in June. The first one was, I think, Judge Nelson. He's from Idaho. He's a George W. Bush appointee. He's conservative. He has ruled on the conservative side on a number of issues. He asked really tough questions. At first, I thought he was a bad guy. Because, just because, even if it's a Republican federal judge, we've noticed some of them have hurt us. They haven't done a very good job. So this guy was a little worried about, but then he was cross-examining, or when he was interrogating the state, he did a really good job. The second one is Kenneth Lee, who was appointed during the Trump administration, the first term. And the last one, I'm sure you all know who this one is, Lawrence Van Dyke. How many of you know who Lawrence Van Dyke is? He's fantastic. And he is the third judge. He's the guy who, he didn't write a dissenting opinion, he demonstrated the dissenting opinion, right? He said, look at this is part of the gun, this is ridiculous. That stupid Duncan versus Bonda case. And he's like, this is ridiculous. This hearing was really, y'all need to know about this. This is really exciting. Because Lawrence Van Dyke, he was just sitting there he has a life. He's not embedded in California gun laws. Who would want to be? And he's like, are you telling me that, 95% of California residents cannot open carry, but you're saying that they can apply for open carry? Explain this to me. The lawyer for Ron Bonta looked really bad. This was embarrassing. And then Lawrence Van Dyke, he was like sitting there going, so let me see if I understand this. So I can carry if I get a permit, but then I can't carry in 95% of the state. Explain this to me. And I can get a permit if I get one in Siskiyou or in Alpine, but then I get arrested if I just cross the border and go to another county? What is this? He was just eviscerating the guy. The other thing I like, Kenneth Lee, when he was actually pretty quiet during most of the hearing, kind of reminded me of Justice Thomas. I thought he was just going to sit there and say nothing, but then he finally stepped in and he said, there's something else, there's a problem with this. Why was open carry banned in the first place? Why did this happen? 1967, the Black Panthers walked into the state capitol wanting to protest. And the legislature says, we don't like that. So they took away open carry. He was willing to make that argument. Normally I don't like the DEI arguments. I don't like it when people play the race card, but this was a pretty effective use of it. He said, this is basically racist. You took away open carry because black people walked into a state legislature and carried a firearm. And the state collapsed. It was really bad. It was actually pretty entertaining. It's bad enough I don't watch judicial hearings and you won't hear me laugh, but I actually laughed a few times. I thought that was pretty entertaining. So I think we are on course to see an open carry regime coming to California. It's going to take a while because the state's going to fight it. You've got 3 Republican judges, at least 2 of them Trump appointees. They were pretty clear. They were siding with Mark Baird and just making a mockery of the whole open carry limitation regime. But I guarantee you're going to see this. It will be an in-bank hearing if it goes our way. Mark's a little frustrated because this is now 2. It went to the 9th, and then it went back to a district court, and now it's back before the 9th. It was in June. They still haven't issued a ruling. They should have done it by August. So it's frustrating. I understand his frustration with it. So we've got the open carry issue here. There was another case I wrote about in my town hall article. You got a guy from New Hampshire, goes to Massachusetts. He has a right to carry in New Hampshire. He's got the permit in New Hampshire. And he gets arrested in Massachusetts just for carrying. That case, really gold. 25 attorneys general have filed amicus briefs supporting the New Hampshire guy. This is looking really good. So it's either Mark Baird's case or the New Hampshire case. We're going to see this open carry ban getting struck down too. And it's really fascinating. You look at the history of this. All across the country, they would actually, a lot of judges, a lot of states, they didn't like concealed carry. But open carry was totally legal. There was no problem with it. It was the concealed part that they didn't like because it was subversive or secretive or whatever. And now everything has gone the other way, where they allow you to conceal but not open carry. Like Florida, New York, and California are still in Illinois too. So if the Bruin argument is all about tradition, then wait a minute, you should be allowing open carry. That should not even, there should be no issue with that. What's going on here? So, this is, this to me is really exciting. We are really seeing stuff going in our direction. And no matter how bad it may get here in the state of California, we are seeing real improvements for our gun rights movement. And who would have thought, with all the terrible things that have been happening around us, how things have improved. Now, the last thing, of course, which gets to the starter point, Nathan Hockman and Sheriff Luna, both LA County executives, they came to Torrance, California. This was late August. So this was like really exciting. We've never had the district attorney come down. Torrance, we're not exactly a crime hub. You know, I mean, sadly, there's burglaries. God, I'm so sorry that happened to your mom. Gee. I mean, the fact that there's inordinate amounts of crime is bad enough. But, you know, I can tell you, this part of town, we did not vote for Gascon. And this part of town was happy to see Nathan Hockman get elected. And Sheriff Luna, don't like him as much. I'll get to that in a minute. But they both showed up. I didn't know what to think or what to expect. I mean, as far as, you know, Sheriff Luna, you know, I voted for Villanueva in 22. I actually voted for a Democrat. First time in a long time. And now he's a Republican, so I'm more than happy to vote for him. And if you don't know it already, he will allow ICE in the jails. Huge. That was a big issue for me in 2018, why I didn't want to have anything to do with him. You can find videos of me. I used to harass him. I actually chased him out of a town hall in Torrance. I can show you that video someday. But now I'm totally thrilled with the guy. So, Nathan Hockman, this guy is fantastic. I mean, I feel like I'm in a red state now. At least on this issue. This district attorney, I mean, he's better than Jackie Lacey. Jackie Lacey was really weak on the death penalty, for example. Nathan Hockman, within a few months, he reinstated the death penalty here in LA County. That's a big deal, because this is still a woke county. But he said, we're going to prosecute, we're going to see the death penalty, if it's egregious enough. That was a big deal for me. He explained at length, along with one of his deputy DAs, about Prop 36. He didn't hold anything back. I really like this. He went after the governor, he went after the legislature. He did not hold back. He said, these people are stiffing us. We need $400 million to fully implement Prop 36 because of the drug care courts, the health courts, to be able to go after everybody, to be able to process everything. And people like Bertucci and Ben Allen and Governor Newsom wasting $250 million on a redistricting scheme when they could help us protect our communities again. I mean, this is a win-win for us. Nathan was in the right place at the right time. I was so glad he was there. As far as Nathan Hockman, there's that. I was able to, they took questions like from the public. This was something else too. I mean, most of the time we have all these elected officials, they're avoiding us and they want to answer as few questions as possible. They'll introduce 5 or 6 other elected officials to take up 30 minutes of the time so they don't have to hear from us. Nathan Hockman and the sheriff, they took every question. And I was able to sneak in at the very end. I was the last person. So, let me briefly, I gotta mention a couple things about Sheriff Luna. I think there's some things I have problems with this guy about. They're still talking about shutting down Men's Jail, Men's Central in downtown LA. And that just freaks me out. Then he adds to it and says, we don't want to shut it down until we have another place to go. It's like, okay, that's a little bit better. But I think we should be locking them up, not letting them free. So that kind of freaks me out. One of the first questions you all list that dovetails with what I started with, there was a guy, Paul Jones, he's a state assembly candidate, and he asked the question, I have applied for a CCW, and I haven't gotten my CCW yet. What's going on? And so the sheriff says, oh, we have like thousands of applications, and we only have 2 people. Only have 2 people who can process all of them. What is this? And this is the thing that got James. James didn't know about this, but there was another federal district ruling. As you know, up to this ruling, you could be from Oregon, Nevada, Washington, West Virginia. You could not apply for a CCW in California. You had to be a California resident. Well, this federal court said, nope, you can't do that. So you've got people all over the country who have now filed for CCWs in LA County. So that's double their backlog. So it's good that more people can seek the CCW. And then the sheriff complained and says, well, we're trying to do the best we can. We know that's garbage. The DOJ, God bless them for suing. That is totally ridiculous. It's not that hard to file this. One of the questions I wanted to ask, so I'm getting to the very end. I wanted to do this, I didn't have the time. I said, well, if it takes you so long to process CCW applications, you do know there are 29 jurisdictions you don't need a permit to carry. Why don't you consider that? Of course, I didn't have the chance. I would have wondered, I wanted to know how they'd answer that. That would have been interesting. But what did I get to ask? This is another reason I really like Nathan Hochman. And if you voted for him, don't regret it one bit. I asked the district attorney, what are you doing about the woke judges? We have a great DA now. We have a refund the police agenda now. We have a pro-police president. But these judges are still horrible. What are you doing about them? Now, of course, we have to elect better people. Well, we vote for the right people, but everybody else doesn't. And this is great. You know, he was like ready for it. He says, this is what we're doing. I've never heard of this. We file, the district attorney's office, they are now filing peremptory challenges against judges. They get them disqualified. And he gave this egregious case of a transient who was nearly beaten to death with a metal pipe by a drug addict, another drug addict transient. The case was sent to the airport courthouse over there near Marina Del Rey, or near the Del Air, Hawthorne area. And one of the judges, another wokester, was gonna put the guy on mental health diversion and then let him go. I mean, this is insane. And the victim was in court screaming about it, saying, you can't do this, I was nearly killed. Well, Nathan said, you know what? They struck the judge and took him off the cases. They're fighting back. This guy is really creative, just like Donald Trump. I love it. So we've got a really good ally with the DA. The sheriff, they have found a way, because the other question I was worried about was what's happening, because I was told that bail has been eliminated, everybody gets released. The sheriff, this is a good thing for Sheriff Luna, they have found a way, the courts have a system now where they're able to enact a bail system in certain cases. They were able to get around the county ruling. I don't have all the details on that specific ruling, but they have fixed that problem too. So all of this all around, we've got a lot to be grateful about. Maybe at the next town hall, one of you could ask about the CCW question. I'd love to see how he answers it. What can I say? I really appreciate I could speak with you all tonight. James, I want to wrap up with this. I was looking over the text messages that I gave him last year. I was very down and out. I told you I didn't support Trump. I had even disaffiliated from the Republican Party. I was so disappointed with the RNC platform being broken down. And it feels really good to be here a year later. I'm a Republican, don't worry. I voted for Trump. I'm so glad I was wrong. I think we're in one of the best periods we could ever be when it comes to gun rights. And we have a lot to be grateful for. Thank you again for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. Oh, you have questions? All right, let's
Okay.
yeah, let's go for it. Questions.
Donald Trump's felony conviction still stands, even though he got everything else eliminated from that no jail time, no penalty. So did the ATF take his guns?
Wow, that's a good question. I actually don't know. I do believe that felony ruling is on the rocks right now. It is being challenged. There's an he's actively
Yeah,
fighting.
he's actively pursuing that.
Yeah.
He's all over that. I mean, they did get rid of all the penalties, we know that, but the felony conviction still stands.
That's true. Unfortunately, it's totally bogus, as we all know. To the best of my knowledge, I don't believe his right to carry. In a way, right now, he doesn't need to carry. He's got the whole army on his side. But that's a good question. Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, this is, I don't know, this question can be answered by anybody in here, I guess, because those of you that have CCWs, those who can carry, I wanted to ask this question. It's very important to me, because I instruct and I do teaching, but I've never heard anybody take on this issue. In the malls, like for instance, Glendale, they have a sign, you cannot carry in malls. So my question is that a violation of the Second Amendment right, when a private corporation or business says you cannot carry in my business?
I'm going to jump on that.
Yeah.
I do think that's a violation, and I'll tell you why. Because it's his right to keep and bear arms, and the mall is a public space. It's not like for me. I mean, I respect property right. If it's my home and I put up a sign, okay, if I want to be stupid and say you can't bring a gun, that's on me because it's my home. But a mall is a public space, and there's a lot of case law that deals with public space and the fuller exercise of your rights. I can go to a strip mall, there's a bunch of businesses there, I can put up a table and collect signatures to recall somebody. They can't stop me from doing that. On the other hand, if it's a sole proprietor property, I'm out of luck. If they tell me to leave, I gotta leave. That's my argument. Anybody want to add to that? I'm curious, do you mind if I ask, how many of you have a CCW?
How many will admit they have one?
That's part of the problem for LA County.
Yeah.
Okay, for LA County, you have a CCW.
State of California,
Okay.
issued by a local jurisdiction.
Okay. And
permit is.
And I just
for
want to add
state.
to this, this came up in the Bonta, the Baird versus Bonta. There is no record of an open carry license being issued, even in those rural counties.
Wow.
They do not allow you to do it. This is another funny story. Kenneth Lee brought this up. He was the last guy to ask questions. Sorry, I'm the one talking. I want to hear questions, but he brought this up. It's a 17-page application, correct, to get your CCW? And nowhere does it say open carry. Nowhere, except there's this one little part. It says exposed permit. There's one little part. It is so devious. It is so deceptive. I mean, they're clearly they don't want you to be able to open carry. It's outrageous. And Kenneth Lee made a huge mockery of it too. It was really nice to see that.
Personally, I'd rather conceal carry.
Me too. Yeah.
Open carry, too many crazy people out here. You know, they see you open carry and you're not in uniform. They may trip out, especially in my community, my neighborhood.
You know, and my response to that would be, it shows that that's a cultural problem that I think should be overcome.
Right.
Bridget Lewis, she's my councilwoman in Torrance. She's from West Virginia. It took her 5 minutes, but she got used to it. People are able to open carry in West Virginia. My answer is get used to it. That's my state. I don't think it's, my answer too is I mean, the tradition of our country, open carry was welcomed. It was concealed carry that people didn't like. So, I mean, it's just kind of interesting. That's my take on it. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Please.
well, you covered briefly the excessive wait times for the sheriff's department to issue concealed carry permits.
Yeah.
Did you cover the United States of America versus the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department case?
Well, I mean, basically, that's Harmeet Dillon. She's suing. She's suing them. There was an investigation going on for a couple of months. She finally dropped the lawsuit. It's about damn time.
Yep.
I was reading a commentary on this. This is clearly slow walking. It is clearly political. I mean, for those of you who got the CCW, how long did it take you? Let's start with you.
About a year.
4 days?
104 days.
104 days.
The lead time in the city was 104 because the investigating detective
I was about to say
was
that.
on vacation.
Now, and when was this?
This was last year, so.
104 days. Okay.
2027 I renewed.
Okay.
It's
And
only 2 years. I'd like to see it pushed forward. And a lot of people at the sheriff's department said, you know, that would cut our workload in half if they doubled the time, because what's gonna happen? We're gonna get a report if you do something wrong, and then we can pull your license, but we definitely need to, you know, everyone else has 4 to 5 years. Why does California only have 2?
Yeah.
To make you jump through more hoops and make it more.
For LA County, it's 2, and like Paul
State of
Jones,
California.
Paul was talking about, it was a year that he had filed for the permit. And there was a guy from New Zealand, James, you might remember this case. The guy was a federal officer. He had carried a firearm, he had the federal authority, and he still couldn't get a CCW. What the hell is this? This is a reminder, if you want to sign up, that's for Mass Resistance, please do. I'd love to be able to stay in touch with you. Yeah, I mean, it's time for constitutional carry. Let's just cut the crap. This is ridiculous. I even suggested that in Huntington Beach. They've been really moving in the right direction. Yes?
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong, the gentleman, if you have your CCW, and do they instruct, I mean, is it a rule, because they have all these rules you have to follow, as you were mentioning. Is there a rule that if the business or the proprietor or the whatever, mall, business, theater, wherever you go, you know, Walmart, if they say that you cannot carry in here, do you have to honor because they said that?
Yes.
You have to
That's
leave.
what I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah,
California.
see that?
It's trespassing if you don't.
Okay.
And
See,
the flip
that's-
side, and I gotta add to this, I was in Nevada, which doesn't have constitutional carry, but you can open carry anywhere. The police said, like an establishment, they cannot prevent you in Nevada. That's what I was told. Now, if someone's correct, that's fine. Now, Arizona's different. They love trespassing everybody. I got
Is that
trespassed.
also in if you're a non-resident, can you carry, or you have to be a resident
Where?
in Nevada?
You could be non-resident.
Yeah.
Yep, you can be non-resident.
California is the only creepy state that says you must be a resident to get a CC, but that's just been struck down.
Colorado.
Colorado does it too?
I can't go to Colorado. I'm not a resident.
I think the casinos in
Colorado sucks.
Vegas can say no one over.
Casinos can say no?
I think
Yeah,
so.
they
But-
can say no.
yeah.
If you're
But-
open carrying.
I just think the thinking of this is so flawed. If you study the
Right.
Wild West from the 1890s and 80s and 90s, everybody carried, you didn't see mass shootings,
Right.
everything was safe. I mean, this is just, the thinking is so flawed. It just makes me sick.
Okay, all right.
So, are we all good?
Yep, we're gonna
I
wrap it?
really appreciate
Okay.
this. This is
Thank-
fun.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.